All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started. My name is Lacey Schramm. I am the founder of Smart KX, and I'm so honored to have Molly Pierce here today from Track That Advisor and really hop into um, something that advisors are just crazy about on LinkedIn,
It's
marketing.
so true. So true. LinkedIn, I feel like it's the epic place for data and marketing.
Yes, like we got to do marketing, we got to do these things. But
Yep.
Molly and I really like chatted a lot about just the marketing ROIs and what her
Mhm.
business is doing. So Molly is the CEO of Track That Advisor, and just tell us, how what problems advisors have and how you and Track That Advisor are solving them.
Yeah, great question, Lacey. I think data in itself is sometimes kind of a boring word, and people are a little bit daunted by it. They don't really know where to start or how to track their data, but they know it's important for the most part, right? Like the measuring of where you're going and where you've been is really significant to your future of your business. So, how Track That Advisor kind of was started was we saw a need in the industry that no one was tracking. Nobody's really understanding, what marketing funnels are performing. Potentially they have, some spreadsheet over here that marketing does, some spreadsheet over here that production does. And Erica Polly, our founder, really looked at that and she sat in the marketing chair and said, there's really got to be a better way. So she kind of founded this company, started it, and said, okay, let's begin this journey. And then I came in and was a happy participant to kind of keep it going with her. But yeah, what we do is really tackle the age-old question of what's working and what's not, and how do we get good, clean, solid data. And I say clean very specifically because you might have, again, two spreadsheets, but they're not talking to each other and it's not integral. It's not clean. It's not pushing them toward what they need to know. So that's what Track That Advisor does is we help from start to finish knowing your numbers, how to get those numbers, teaching your team how to input the information so that it's clean, but also understanding your numbers. I think that's really a key component that a lot of advisors are potentially missing. They might have, this bucket of numbers, but they don't really know what's going on there. They
Mhm.
don't really know which ones are important, right? So, I mean, you could have two different firms as well. And that's what happens a lot of times, or like advisors, look to other advisors, which is great, but you could be two totally separate firms and really need to be tracking completely different items or different metrics. So that's where we really come in is understanding your data story is for advisors. So we're very niche. We love the advisor industry. We love benchmarking, providing benchmarks for this industry because I think, again, it's just kind of this wild west field of I am kind of tracking, but I don't really know comparatively like where I should be, and what we should be tracking and where we're going in this process. So that's the
Yeah,
need
and
we
it
feel.
the analogy I think of is really like you're doing for advisors in the marketing spend what they're doing for their clients in their
Yes.
investment. Like
Yes.
looking at the performance and like gauging what is success, gauging the success.
Yeah.
How do we like continue to increase that and make adjustments? So one of the things that we instantly bonded over was these metrics. And you had said when we onboard a new advisor, we always ask for these metrics. And I, as a business owner, found that surprising because I've obviously done and experimented and done lots of things in marketing. And some of these metrics were pretty new to me. So
Yeah.
I understand there's five. Can you
Good.
explain, can you give an overview of those five?
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of call these the top five Track That Advisor data metrics. And what that is, it's really also freeing for advisors to know that there are thousands of data metrics that you could be looking at, but let's focus on the top five and let's start somewhere. I think that's the most important is even if you're a newer advisor, or maybe you are an advisor that just has never tracked in the past, these are five awesome places to start. And they're really simple. So the first is stick rate. I would say that this is probably the most common metric that potentially is being tracked. But if you have no tracking at all, this is really important is the stick rate. And what I mean by that is number of kept people or kept appointments versus number of
Mm.
set appointments. So even if you just have, we have what, 3 weeks left in the year, which is insane, but there's 3 weeks left. Even if your firm, someone in your team could start today, just simply counting the number of appointments you keep over the next 3 weeks and compare them over the number that were scheduled these 3 weeks, that is a great place to start. It gives you at least a baseline. Okay, I know in the month of December, this was my stick rate. And then let's track that into 2025. It's not going to be a great data set because it's not going to be huge for this year, but it's an awesome place to start and kind of allows you to dip your toe in the water. So that's stick rate. That's really important. Secondarily, I would say close rate. And what I mean by close rate is how many clients or how many prospects did you actually have close? How many became clients? Wrote business with you versus how many you met with. So basically, kept first per to client percentage. How many actually became a client, wrote business with you versus how many kept. Third, average case size. This one is really huge. And it just is funny because I know that, again, I know the data field is daunting and it's a lot to jump into. So I hope advisors hear it. You have freedom in that, you have forgiveness in some senses, but average case size is a great one to track because it also directly ties to the number of leads you need to pull in to your firm. So, for
And so
example,
when you mean
yeah.
average case, you mean like we think about it in the SaaS space, like your average client spend, average user spend over a year.
So it's actually a little bit different. So average
Oh,
household case size. So when you write, like what is the average AUM or annuities or product amount that they're writing and bringing to your firm? So
okay. So
but if you
not
have,
revenue, but
correct, not
their
revenue, like
AUM.
actual
Okay.
asset amount. Yeah. So
Okay.
asset amount per household is what we mean by
Okay.
average case size. Good clarification. Sorry. Sometimes I feel like, everybody speaks our language and I'm like, I know it's a bit different. So yeah. So average asset you bring in per household. So and what also is really indicative of that is if you are a firm that has, $1 million average case size per household, you don't need as many leads because they're, bigger fish. They are a little bit slower to move through the sales cycle. You don't necessarily need a ton of leads, but you need to be very specific on how you're closing them because you're not, getting a ton into the funnel. Whereas if
Hmm.
you have a smaller average case size, maybe you're a newer firm, to reach certain, revenue benchmarks, you are going to need to bring more leads into the funnel. So that's kind of one thing that we really, really want to pay attention to, again, because no two firms are the same. That will really help you and your goals of what you want to see. The other one is pending leads. This also ties to average case size, but pending leads is huge because I hear all the time advisors are like, I just need more leads. I just need more leads. I just need more to do more seminars or do more marketing spend or spend more dollars. And then all of a sudden I'll, have this much bigger profitable business. You don't. Like, yes, in some cases, absolutely. But in most cases, if you have a lot of pending leads, and what I mean by that is like prospects that are waiting to potentially have an appointment with you, waiting to get through that sales cycle, you do not need more. You need to focus and service the ones that are in your calendar. Pay attention there. And if you are at a spot where you do have so many pending leads, great. Let's look at getting a sub advisor. Let's look at, bringing on another advisor to the firm. If you are being, if you have the success of getting leads in and you're a little overwhelmed, train someone. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think a lot of that one of like you have a fish on the line, like get it in. And sometimes if
Yes.
you fish, like
I love
I would
fishing.
not call
Alaskan
myself a
fishing. Yes.
fisherwoman, but you got a fish on the line, that could take hours, literally. Like you
Hours.
get that one in instead of looking out and
Yes.
like having, shiny object syndrome of like you
Yes.
baby and coddle that thing until it is like in the boat.
Yes, especially if it's a big one. I mean, truly, you're going to
Yeah.
spend, I always think about this too. If there are larger case size, you're going to take a lot longer. One thing that we
Yeah.
measure is like days between appointments and days,
Mm.
per closing. And those types of clients do take a lot longer. So agreed, reel them in, take your time, fillet them well, and then move to cast your net again. So I
Yeah.
think that's great, but it's true. And then kind of the last one we talk about is cost per client. And I think that also really directly relates to, I mean, everything, average case size, close rate, but cost per client. You don't always need to spend more money. You really don't. We talk about how marketing should really be like a stool. You should have three solid legs on your stool, typically referrals, some type of seminar, if you're doing dinner seminars, educational workshops, existing clients, that was huge this past year.
Mm.
Refinancing, all of that, that was huge. So you should always have three types of marketing on your stool, digital. And then with those three types of marketing, that gives you the freedom now to go find this shiny object, right? Like I think we get excited, we're like, yes, let's go after this shiny object. But if you do not have three stable marketing legs, you should not be going after shiny objects.
And when you say marketing spend, are you saying
Yep.
purely dollars or are you also including time?
Dollars. So I know data is a finicky one, but we typically look at dollars. And yes, time is important. And I know there's so many resources on how to be, efficient and how to really focus those times. When we look at data, it is a little bit more cut and dry on dollars. So like, for example, cost per client, we typically say that should be around $4,500 as a benchmark for
Okay.
the industry. That's what we kind of utilize. Now, obviously, if you're an advisor and you're like, wow, I have a way less cost per client spend, you're probably doing a lot of referrals, which are going to be very cheap, which is great. It's nothing wrong by that, but that is a funnel that could potentially run dry. And it's also one that you're not marketing as much. So 45 as a basis overall. There are also higher cost leads, TV, radio, for example. But that should be the overall benchmark. So that's kind of the big five.
Okay. So
Um,
4,500 is like
100.
your average client or average acquisition cost
Yes,
across the
acquisition.
industry. Obviously,
Yep.
that would differ if you're looking at a $250,000 client or a $3 million
Yes.
client.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
your
how they
return
got them
is,
in.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we definitely do a lot of benchmarking. I think that's huge. So, and I can kind of talk about that as well, if that's something you want to look at, like industry benchmarking, because again, I
Hmm.
don't think advisors necessarily have that. And we want to be that resource to say, okay, when you look at stick rate, roughly you should be around 70%. You should be truly bringing in 70% of the people that you set. When we look at close rate, we want
You
to
should
look at,
wait, on the stick rate,
yeah,
like 70% should be meeting with you. You set up 10
yes,
meetings, seven should stick. Then the
yes.
next piece of those seven, how many should close?
Yes. So of those seven, so we talk about like the whole funnel. So of those, seven that meet, you should have 60% of those moving to a second appointment. And then once you have that second appointment, 80% of those that you've booked at that second should be meeting. So we
Okay.
have kind of what we call the prospect story. So I'll touch on that. So yeah, so you have 10 people meet, your stick rate, you should have seven of those, 70% come in. You should book 60% of those seven people to move to a second meeting.
Okay.
Of those that book the second meeting, 80% of those should come to that meeting, right? You've
Right.
already established rapport, you've already established who you are, you hopefully have gained some type of trust in them. They're willing to move forward. Of those 80% that meet in a second, you should close 30% of the totality. So three of those people that you met in that initial meeting of those 10 should be closing. So
So
you should be at
30%.
30%. 30%
Okay.
is the close. And again, a lot of advisors come and they're like, well, I am awesome. I have a 70% close rate. And I'm like, that is amazing. I want to see your data. And if that's the case, I don't want to I always am a positive person. I'm like, I hope that for you. I really
Yeah.
do. What we find is once we start digging, they don't, which is unfortunate. But I also want to give advisors the freedom to know 30% is the national average. Like that's our industry benchmark. That's our industry standard. Again, if you're doing referrals, that's naturally going to be much higher because you already have built some rapport with them.
And
But
then, and on those, as they're coming into the pipeline, are those
yeah.
warm, cold, or how are those coming in?
So those should be warm. Those should be all prospects that set an appointment. They're willing to meet with you. That's lead. I feel like lead funnels is a whole separate
Yeah.
topic and we could spend hours on that as
But
well. But
cold
I think
versus warm, is it good?
oh, absolutely. Yep, warm. Nope, they're warm. They're ready in there. So that's the big thing. And benchmarking, I think, is so important. It's also a tool, not a rule. I can say, hey, these are the stats that we have said as the industry standard based on data, based on evaluations, based on analysis. So yes, it's accurate. But also your firm might be slightly different. Your
Yeah.
firm might be, you're maybe not trying to grow to the next level. You're really just trying to service the people you have, maybe get some referrals versus, hey, I'm trying to, run a $1 billion company and get all of these advisors under me. That's a lot different. So
Yeah.
we always say that's really, I think, also where the top five really come in. Just start tracking. It was my biggest goal. Start tracking where you're at. start paying attention to specific things.
And how many, so I'm going to share the contact screen.
Yeah.
15 minutes went so quick.
So fast.
How many advisors are actually tracking these things and how many are
Yeah.
not
So I would say, I mean, we have quite a few on our platform and program, and this is helpful because I think this is
before
again
they come
where
to you, I would
oh,
say?
before they come, they typically they're trying, I would say. We typically see spreadsheets as, I hate to say
Yeah.
this, as ugly as these spreadsheets are.
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort that they're trying to get there truly. So I would say probably 70% of the people that come on board with us are trying in some capacity, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, but they're trying. And then
Yeah.
30% are just like, I've never done this before. Can you help me? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Let's do it. So whether you're trying to track or whether you haven't done anything, we are here to help for sure.
I love it. Well, I will have your contact info here.
Awesome.
Everything that we've talked about today is coming to the participants by email. Molly
Awesome.
and I connected instantly over these metrics. My company, SmartKX, we do fees. So getting into the after the client is acquired, what fees those are bringing in, both calculating, doing the analysis. We're
Yeah.
rolling out some new dashboards over the next few weeks that include some of these metrics. So that's
So
really how we got
excited to see it.
connected.
I think you do such an incredible thing for the advisor world and the industry. I'm just so excited to see this continue. Truly. It's
Thanks.
so needed.
Thanks.
You're so needed in this world
As
for
are
sure.
you. I'm so excited to like start merging the worlds. You can see here, like
Yes.
we start getting into overall billing rate, how much
Mhm.
money you're leaving on the table, average, income per client. So really exciting things coming. Molly, I've so enjoyed chatting with you, and you are doing wonderful things for the industry. And I
Thank
hope
you.
anyone watching, reach out to Molly. She's also on LinkedIn. And thank you so much. I hope you have
Of
a
course.
great holiday season, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Lacey. Bye.
Bye.